a comfortable position. How are you finding there? Here the couch will also work. You can make a space if it feels. It's fine for you to share. Okay, because being comfortable is very important. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. You know, when we put together an intention, something happens, right? So there's something a bit magical about people sitting together trying to do something. So that way, I really appreciate your presence, and it definitely counts. So let's make a campfire of honesty, of openness, it really doesn't matter who you think you are, who were you before this moment. Right now, it just doesn't matter. So just let yourself slowly, let your mind and your body land in this very moment, here and now. Make sure that your spine is straight so it becomes comfortable over a longer period of time. For many of us, if you haven't practiced to sit in this way, it may feel a little strange at first, like straight, but the idea is that if you hold the position for a long time, if your back is curved just because you're tired or something like that, at first seems to be more comfortable to just to relax everything. But over a long period of time, that will build tension in different parts, for example, your neck. Or so just make sure that you're straight. You're, of course, invited to modify your position through the meditation. May your body be ready to fall asleep while fully awake. There's already a natural peace in just being here without doing anything. But if you observe why we cannot access it all the time, is because your body and your mind are distracting you. So most people's body will resist to calm and remain relaxed and still. Body will like to do something, move, and itches and things come. That's very normal. That's okay. Where things become a little more trickier is with your mind. Unless you have practiced for a very long time or have completely released your personality, most people will have a continuous, habitual, involuntary thinking going on. First step is to notice that your thoughts come to you freely without you even asking them to come. So right now, we're just sitting. You don't need to think. So when thoughts come, just notice that you didn't ask for them. They are actually some way not fulfilling the task of just being here. They are kind of distracting you. So to notice that your mind is going in an automatic mode is the first step to freedom. Most people don't recognize that even in their whole life. It may feel a little strange to get out beyond, around your mind. That is actually very natural. You first exist, and then thinking activity happens. You can tell because you're sitting comfortably and relaxed. You can notice there are gaps between thoughts. Sometimes you think, sometimes you don't think. Now we're going to play a game. An attention game. Which is noticing that your distractions will try to take you off anything you try to focus on. First, let your attention move randomly through the events that are happening here and now. Sensations in your body. Of touch. Maybe the clothes, maybe the position. Tension, the muscles. Your breathing. Sounds outside. Thoughts inside. Try to get a general overview of the range of perception you have. Smells. You will notice that hopefully at this point your attention is not exclusively in your mind, but you also notice things around you, perceptions. Let your mind freely go wherever it wants. Let go from one sensation in your leg to a sound in the street to a thought to the breathing to an image in your mind to an emotion in your body, maybe something that you have lived today that was kept your body in some sort of feeling. Whatever it is, let it randomly appear to you. For most people, their mind will still take most of their attention. They will still be thinking most of the time. It will take a long stretch before the mind starts letting go. So, a very successful way of doing this is to sort of reinforce the perception. So imagine a sensation appears in your back. You deliberately focus your attention on it for a few seconds, trying to get the fullness of the experience. When the sensation starts, when it stops, for a few seconds. Then you may hear a sound. For a few seconds, you perceive that sound with clarity, noticing every detail of that sound. And if nothing happens, then you just rest and wait for the next stimuli. And then you go for it and deliberately place your attention on that sensation for a few seconds. Make sure you spend around 3 to 5 seconds with each element to your perception that spontaneously comes to you. Let your attention choose freely what is the next focus point, perception. And when something triggers, listen to every detail or you sense every detail of that perception. a few seconds, and then you just relax and wait for the next opportunity. You don't choose the objects. That's very important. They sort of appear and invite you to perceive. You just cooperate by becoming interested in the experience. If it's a sound, you could hear how it comes, how it goes, the distance between the sound and you. If it's a sensation, try to notice if the sensation changes over time. It normally appears, disappears, or have a mutating kind of sensation. Does it have a shape? Intensity? You'll notice that you sort of relax. The more interested you are in noticing the experiences, the less your mind absorbs your attention. Sometimes there may be different sensations or perception at the same time. just for the simplicity, just take one for a few seconds, one at a time. Then let go and wait for something to call your attention naturally. Whenever a sensation appears, a perception, allow yourself to perceive it fully with interest, with clarity, with curiosity. As if every perception will be telling you a story, small story. Just attend fully. So your attention is really drawn to different events, and you're going slots of a few seconds at a time in each different perception. Also, you're trying to live fully each perception as it happens with curiosity and interest, going deep into it. Don't let your mind distract you. Be always attentive to the experience of perception, allowing slots of a few seconds at a time to perceive with full clarity each perception. next step will be to directly engage without attempting to control your attention, sustaining in any object. You just let it flow, but you will feel it with so much intensity that you can notice every second that you are so invested in perception that you don't get trapped in thinking. It's a clear sensation of presence, of being attending with clarity. Try to see if you can engage one perception after another in a continuum of here and now. If there are two events calling your attention at the same time, then you're attending both at the same time. Your attention goes all over the place, but you're following it with presence and stability. Flow like a symphony of perception. Don't miss even one perception, like a cat hunting. You are relaxed and attentive. The more you flow in this way, the easier it will be to start noticing second layer of attention that is more broad, It's like feeling everything at the same time, like an open focus that is very stable, which includes every perception and even a different kind of focused attention that moves around. There is this passive layer of attention that is embracing everything as one. So open your focus. Let perceptions dance around you. You're embracing everything at the same time. If you stay this open awareness, more any perception becomes just another perception, to the point that sounds, feelings, thoughts, everything seems to be just perception. You're just openly still, present, and silent. Everything's perfect. Nothing can affect you because you're embracing everything already. You're welcoming every bit of the experience as it happens. The more you're able, you allow yourself to perceive everything as a movie. Everything is right. There's no wrong sound, no wrong perceptions. It becomes more like a seamless, continuous experience of things moving in and out of your experience. But you notice all the experiences at the same time, like one single experience of being here and now. Let go, relax. It's not something you do, it's something that is already happening. You have to make it. You don't have to make an effort. At this point, if you follow every step, you should be able to even drop the sense that you are trying to meditate. You could just let go of any doing, any intention, just remaining nakedly with what's happening. Resting in direct perception without labeling, without controlling. Only when you do nothing, you can feel everything. Let go of your intention to meditate. Let go of the meditator in you and just rest in the presence that is happening already anyway. You're not even letting go or controlling anything in any way. You're just present, allowing everything without doing anything. You don't need to meditate. Meditation is your natural state prior to thinking. Just rest in that recognition. Just be effortless. The deeper you rest, the more indifferentiated your awareness becomes. It's not just objects or perceptions. It's just a sense of presence that is difficult to locate. But it has a very clear sense of wakefulness, of being happening right now. The grounding of your reality. There's nothing to do. You're just resting in this openness recognizing the experience directly and noticing that there is this factor of presence that allows you to experience. It's the mere aliveness that allows you to feel that you are alive in this moment. The more you relax, the more apparent this awareness becomes. Resting in that awareness, you can let go of your focusing on objects and experience and allow the awareness to become your experience itself, attending your own attention. Relaxing in your own awareness with no agenda. Just immersing yourself in the core of your presence. You're not meditating, you're just resting, allowing attention to become obvious. Whatever happens, whatever experience is always the same awareness to which it appears. It's a background that allows perception to happen. It's completely neutral. It has no form, no time or space. It's just there. It's not an object, and yet you can still notice it. So your attention goes away from the projection and is noticing the light, the projector, regardless of the images, perceptions, sounds, feelings, thoughts. They're all inside. But your attention is allowing all that to be. Relax in your own awareness. just for a few minutes more. Rest. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to meditate. You're resting in this wakeful state. Many perceptions may appear. Remain resting, allowing everything to come and go. Resting in the awareness that allows every experience to happen. Deep stillness, sweet silence, peaceful bliss. Just as an experiment, we're about to finish this exercise. It's an experiment. How deeply can you rest in the awareness that allows this moment? How much can you surrender your involuntary attention contractions and remain just open, welcoming everything, resting in perfect presence? can start breathing a little deeper. Let your body activate so it feels a little more regular waking state. But don't lose this subtle sense of openness and awareness. You're not meditating anymore. Slowly, smoothly coming back to normal, but with a special quality of openness and sensitivity, with a calmer mind. Welcome, planet Earth. Now we have printed for this week, there is this powerful word to reflect. So you can take this if you find it inspiring to your own life. Today we bring in Nisargadatta, which is one of the greatest sages of the last century. And the quote says, "Wisdom is knowing I am nothing. Love is knowing I am everything. And between the two, my life moves." Beyond being a beautiful statement, almost poetic, it's actually, here is, someone could say, is coded the key to what some people call enlightenment. And when he says wisdom, he's talking about knowing reality, not just information, the direct experience of understanding the nature of reality. So wisdom is knowing I am nothing. This is the most meditation paths emphasize a lot in this, and is very important to do this part of the trip where you may have found that many meditation lifestyle suggestions seem to be kind of negating the world in a sense that's been profoundly misunderstood. It's not about being poor or not about living on retreat or things like that. Please, if anyone finds that useful, go on. But in here we're talking about, this case is talking about what you think you know. Quoting Socrates, I only know I know nothing. I would say the wisest man in Western culture, saying exactly the same as Nisargadatta is saying here. Meaning, what we think is knowledge is just the mind throwing information, but the mind works by contrast. So if you want to define something, you need to create the rest. So if you want to think in black, you need to make white. If you want to think in poor, you have to think of rich. If you want to think of happiness, you need to think of misery or sadness. So whenever you activate your mind, the whole world splits in two. And these two subdivide, of course, in many more. But that's where all the sages talk about wisdom as being something related to silence. Because your mind is a generating video game. The more you get in a dream and you get inside of a dream inside of another dream, just think your thoughts. Catch them in your normal life and see how they are just like a little story just happening in there. So the problem with that is it's very confusing. It's very easy. It's nobody's fault that we are so damn crazy. But the problem is that we don't get to realize the movement of the mind and how we trap our attention, entangle our attention on definitions of things. That's why it's so hard to let go of your mind. So I would say, why do it be so difficult just to sit and let your mind go? You say, okay, 5 minutes, I'm going to rest my mind. Why so difficult? Because there are software that is trying to make you perceive reality in certain ways, and it moves very quickly. Just we don't notice anymore, but it's just there. Since you're a child, it's just layering down this programming in ourselves. And if you stop thinking, it falls apart. And it's almost scary if someone is not looking for this experience directly. And if you taken a drug and it will stop your brain, most people, I mean, maybe if you're just, but if they try to go back into life in that way, they will freak out. Suddenly will feel nothing makes sense. Suddenly is. So the mind moves very quickly, creates this holographic experience of you being a person living in a world and all this definition of good and bad and past and future, and you need to run and survive. Get that thing, eat, money, sex. It's really a video game, isn't it? It's this impulses, this body is coded already to have this. But that leads to a lot of, if you see old people compared to young people, they're like trapped in their own definitions, to the point that sometimes old people, they only like what they liked 50 years ago. They cannot like or learn anything else, you know? Trap your mind. And when you were younger, you were like, okay, fine. And a new music, okay, you're open to it. But the more you know yourself, in the sense of defining yourself, the smaller the jail of you becomes. And suffering start kicking in at some point. You start saying, oh my God. But there's no way out. Because your mind is way quicker than you think. So, how you play well, it's about disentangling your attention from your own mind. So some people say we are stopped in evolution, which makes a lot of sense. If you see, let's say, the historical evolution, even it's just a thought, but still, it sort of seems to be evolving, right? And when you see in a life, I don't know if you know this, but babies, when they're alive, they're so vulnerable because they don't differentiate anything. They wouldn't differentiate between different senses. They wouldn't even know what their body really is. That's exactly what they learn in the first 9 months. They start noticing stuff, like, so they don't know anything. So there's just direct perception all the time without processing really. Well, they start processing it slowly, but just like a sea of things. And they start noticing, okay, this experience that, let's say, the mother comes and cuddles them and then goes. They start little by little noticing, okay, I am not that, because it comes and goes. I'm still here. So fine, I'm not that thing. They change to different places. They start noticing the contrast between their body and the room and other factors. So little by little, they start detaching and the person start kind of growing psychologically. They become me, mine, no. It comes all this I want, and it comes all this sensation. Wow, I'm a thing, you know. Unfortunately, we just stop a little after that. So the interesting thing, meditation should definitely pick up right there. The same logic, the same process, just extend it. Start seeing the perception of your body. Where is your body when you're not thinking? At first, you start just like atomizing into perception of, I notice my ass, I notice this. But if you really, really pay attention on the quality we were attempting to open in the meditation, you will notice that it's more like just something happening, but your idea of you makes it you. Like in the baby, they wouldn't notice. So you start making that distinction. Is very important. That's why many meditations start with the breathing, start with, let's say, sounds, like just grounding your senses for real. And without no one telling you about the nature of reality, you start noticing this coming and going. And that, like magic, that's why this methodology in Vedantic traditions is called neti neti, in Buddhist traditions is called vipassana, which is the understanding of the emptiness of experience. Or like you're reducing yourself, you, the thing that knows, start becoming less as you see things coming and going, any experience. We just stop in the level of the body and mind, but if you keep doing it, you will notice, without no one telling you or convincing you of any belief. It's the other way around. You will just notice that as things come and go, you start developing a sense of stability beyond that experience or not, to the point that an advanced being will notice their body coming in out of sleeping. Disappears into sleep, appears the day after, right? It disappears, literally, in deep sleep. Your body and your mind goes very dormant, so much that if you awaken there is almost no possible perception to happen. But anyways, not to go so profound on it, in the most direct way of this moment, if you start honestly observing what's happening, you start getting this flow. They call it arising and passing in Buddhism, and it's key. It's one of the key things the Buddha said. If you want to get enlightened, let's say, like, realize the potential of what you are and live in, a Buddhist will say, free of suffering, it's necessary that you notice this coming and going. Because if you make a solid thing out of your thinking and it's not actually thing, you are deluded, you're ignorant. as they would call it. And it's true. So this exploration observation leads you to start noticing a background that stays there no matter what, to the point that people experience in this stuff they just start feeling a little detached from their body. Their body could be this way, this other way. It's just fine. You're just fine. Because you notice this background that when I feel my hand, fine. When I don't feel my hand, fine. Just start noticing, just start recognizing that you are anyway, whatever happens. And that goes, of course, when you start observing your mind, which is definitely a turning point in all this process. At some point, you recognize directly, and everybody does in a most profound way, it's just that the mind takes the attention away, but everybody knows deep inside that you're not your mind, you're not your thoughts. Anything that crosses your mind, it is not you. In the most direct sense, as the baby will know, he is not the room, he starts just deconstructing reality. So you sort of try to find yourself. What is the most basic element of you? And in there it comes already a tremendous sense of peace. Just that. And I know some of you have been meditating, so you know this very well. The more you just sit in experiencing this coming and going, at some point start making you notice the grounding of it, the attention that allows this coming and going. You start popping up. So there you go beyond your mind. And after you go beyond your mind or any possible perception or experience, then you start noticing the background that allows it. But the problem is, it cannot be perceived. So that's a bit of a riddle already. That's why some of these sentences sound a little, I know that I am nothing. What does that mean? I am nothing. It just doesn't, I mean, syntactically, I think it doesn't even make any sense, right? Why nothing will be even speaking, right? But it's talking about the experience of detaching yourself from all the elements that come and go to the point that you realize your own identity as awareness itself, which is nothing magical, but it's definitely a revolution. To start with, a person abiding at this core level will decide when to think or when not to think freely. Like you decide to move your hand or not to some extent. In a way, the person that's abiding there is not entangled in this pulling and this puppet thing we're feeling all the time. Is beyond that. And that brings an incredible sense of peace. That is one, many people call that awaken. You awaken to what you really are, that is beyond your body, your mind, your history. Anything you could think is not you, because it comes and it goes. Very simple process, but the point is to find the truth, not to make another theory. It's to directly find the truth. And when you peel out the whole thing, you say, okay, fine. And I am awareness. Like some people say, I am God or something like that. But the process is not complete. That's not full awakened state. That's what he's referring with the second line when he says, love is knowing I am everything, which again, paradoxically seems to be the opposite of what he's saying in the first statement. He's talking about the experience when you really let go of all this coming and going and you start broadening, because you will notice your thinking, your perception is a contraction of your attention, isn't it? You see this and you don't see the rest. You see, most importantly, your suffering is a contraction. Whenever you're suffering, you are just locked in this thing. So that's why meditation works so well, so directly, because it's doing the opposite thing of suffering. Is you're just opening and embracing. You're not denying. You're not saying, oh, I lost my job and I feel there's something in me that feels kind of worried and I should do something about it. No, it's not negating that. But if you just would open, I dare you to do it. And suddenly there's a sense of space around it that will allow you to be very flexible. And actually, you will definitely react more practically to the situation. But most importantly, you will just feel it's just fine. It's like, okay, okay, I'll find a way. The sensation of completion, because you already, if you sink into this sense of completion of the attention prior to thinking, prior to reactions, prior to your conditioning, you stay, the more you stay in there, the clearer it becomes that. But then it would come the question, then what is the rest? So if there is this thing that is attention, what is the other thing? Because you can never really find anything. And the more you abide in there, the more things seem to be kind of transparent, more seamless. I don't know if was a point in the exercise we did today where you went from noticing things and disentangling your involuntary thinking process in certain, just cooperating with what's happening. And little by little you disentangle it. At some point, some of you may have been free enough to start sitting more in this, start noticing just this part of you, just checking everything, but you're still sitting in the background of everything. You're noticing that you're noticing things. And don't try to be complicated. It's just, but it's a pretty much direct experience. Does it make sense to you? To some extent? It's very natural. The more you notice, the more you know, oh, it has been always there. Why haven't been noticing it? Because we've been contracted. We're limiting our attention to thinking, basically. So the more you disengage, the more it comes this layer, and there is awareness, and you notice, oh, this is me, and this is the world happening. There's suddenly, you take importance from stuff. There is detachment. There is this sense of freedom. Like, someone can call you and tell you whatever, and you're just fine. You're just fine because you're so incredibly entertained with anything that could happen at any given moment, even your own emotions, or that everything seems to be just fine. And okay, I'll do something else. Fine. There's a sensation of completion and satisfaction. This already is obviously a huge achievement in life. But if you explore that perception directly, will be more like getting close to quantum physics, where I don't know how much you know about quantum physics, but I think it's a really good idea for us Westerns to go into quantum physics a lot. Not just for the complicated thing, but to start realizing that the particles that create the atoms of everything you see, they are potentially nowhere, which really fits very well with the experience of experiencing yourself as awareness. Start this kind of like open sense of place and everything. Some point, if you were really, really deep into this no mind, no attached to the mind, but just open state, where you someone will ask you, where are you? You wouldn't know. I'm not saying that, of course, you may still feel in the perception of your body, but even it sounds strange, you would just suddenly, I don't know. I can tell you here or there or here or there. So there's a psychological consequence of this exploration that will make you sound a little strange for a entertaining evening conversation. Probably no one will like to talk about that. But just the beauty and the peace that accompanies the experience of embracing everything, it pays off. You just don't care anymore about that. It just doesn't even mind even to talk about it. So, but then you start noticing something very interesting. For example, you start really clearly seeing your thoughts, your thinking as a thing happening, as a perception. Because people know thinking, oh, there's something that happens in the brain, but in the brain it doesn't happen anything. it's an electrical connection between neurons, something like that. It just doesn't define anything really but if you think about the direct experience of perception of your own thinking, it comes kind of like a clear but interesting revelation that is actually your thoughts are just made of attention. As if they're like a very quick coding, like a matrix that says this, not this, one and zeros, and like just start just becoming more apparent that your thoughts are just like an illusion, like something is created, like an image in a computer. It's not really there. So you start noticing that actually that thoughts are actually the same awareness that perceives the thoughts. So it's not that you are you there as awareness and they are there the perception of the world as something you've been getting rid of or negating. No, this is not me. This is not me. This is not me. And suddenly you get to this background. But then at some point you realize, but wait, this thing that I'm perceiving is also me. As I said, of course it comes after a lot of direct observation. This is not something to believe or to. It's not a theory. You're trying to build up on direct experience. It's just that it helps a lot to hear about the conclusion of other people before you attempting the same thing. And so when you start noticing your thoughts being that, at some point very soon, and you're still just abiding in this allowing of perception coming and going, you start noticing, wait, perception is exactly the same as thoughts. Are kind of units. And like in quantum physics, we'll completely agree. It's just atoms. The particles, they could be just somewhere in, nobody knows they're just gonna appear in the other side of the universe. I know with our activity of our mind and the narrowing of our perception, it doesn't seem to be so. And it's good to keep your mental health to not deny that. But if you try to really see what's the reality behind it, you start noticing not just your thought, the perception is also made of awareness. So when you perceive other people looking at you, your body, your clothes, if you really, really directly perceive that without processing it with your mind and memory, the more apparent will start becoming to notice that sensation of my hand on the floor. There is no floor, there is no hand. There is just some sort of experience. And the clearer that becomes, that of course you need to start disentangling your attention from your programming as a survival human being. But it can be easily done just by directly observing. And so you start embracing the idea that any perception is no other than you, but not you as a person, that you obviously are playing against the other objects in this physical universe, not you as awareness that you already recognize. That's why something that I think is really beautiful from this teacher, and I totally agree, because I grew up in just a normal but Catholic schools, some religious environment, where people try to be nice to each other in a mechanical and superficial way. Like just, I'm just gonna love each other, like Jesus Christ said, But they don't see it that way. They really don't. So everything they do is just not real. I think it's nice that people try not to be assholes to each other, but the reason why I don't see so much on compassion and all that is because it's the natural consequence of understanding. No one comes to come and tell you should treat your brothers like yourself, or you should. No, it's just the natural consequence of anyone who did this exploration. You start just noticing, I am everything. There's no separation between what you think is you and the other. And this is pretty directly evident in so many ways. You're not an isolated, independent unit of reality. your whole life depends on literally anything around you, from your parents, obviously, to the food you eat, to everything around you. We are definitely not isolated. That is so obvious in so many ways and for different angles, right? But we still live in this idea that we are trapped in this consciousness that apparently comes from your brain. And that's where science is stuck right now, because they can figure out a way out of that. You cannot prove, I'm talking in the scientific way, you cannot prove that the body exists first and then through your brain you created your consciousness, and that consciousness experiences the world. That's the assumption of us because we come from a materialistic point of view. But the other side of the story, we'll call it like spiritual, which is no, consciousness was there before, and that what created everything. This is like being in a dreaming at night, and try to figure out the meaning of the world. Trying to look for proofs in the dream about it. It's just like, I mean, I really hope that through quantum physics or certain very clever going around, we can really help to get rid of a lot of ignorance. But still, the only knowledge is direct experience. It cannot be processed. Otherwise, it's not knowledge, it's process. And this tainting had put it conditions to it, and it's not true. And as one of the most famous experiments from quantum physics, they discover that actually, and this is factual, as scientific as it could be, that when there's an observer taking on the experiment, the particles will behave like particles. But when the observer is not there, they behave like waves. By waves meaning anything, everywhere, anytime. So the whole concept of materiality disappears. So far our science has actually proved that we're not living in this, we live grounded in this idea. I look into something, I don't look at it, it's still there as it is because it's a reality independent of me. That's the belief we're living in general, right? Well, that is proven already, even by science, that is not the case. This, of course, is proven already by the direct experience, as we were trying to walk around with meditation, that is really not the case. And it brings about a huge revolution in the way you live and experience the world. The most important one being that awareness, that's very, very subtle, apparently ethereal part of you prior to thinking, prior to time, prior to anything you could conceive. That is the happiness. That is the completion we are looking for. So, whatever is the completion you're looking in your life, the only thing, only reason for all these paths of meditation, all these wise people talking to others, say like, you're not gonna find it that way. Whenever you think you have an experience of happiness, it's actually not an experience of happiness. It is a release from being contracted on the idea that you needed to accomplish that in order to feel happiness. So the moment you accomplish it, you get that job, you get that money, you get that, you suddenly just, oh, I get all this money. You see, I'm rich, I'm safe, and so you feel really good for a while, right? Because that's the way it is. This comes another problem right after. So that's why everybody's like the carrot. And it's just not the way you find happiness. You can do a lot of things and please enjoy the video game. But let's make this point very clear and save yourself a lot of time and suffering. Happiness is the recognition of something is there already that you are, and it goes beyond your thinking. That's one of the clearest way of going around this. Whenever you're thinking, when you are thinking, know that thinking may be happening. It's a compulsive thing, like your bodies are moving and you're not deciding to move them, right? So it could happen, just don't bother. You could be dissociated, not in a negative way, but in a way that you're not affected by it the more you rest. So things can still like pop up like the sounds in the street, but they don't limit your life, right? Same way your thoughts are like little stories or like little projections. If you don't put your attention power on them, they don't become a movie. They don't become so real. They're just like thoughts. And most of the time, you're right, you're wrong about almost anything. And most of the time, the thoughts crossing your mind are straight out of conditioning you didn't even decide to have in the first place, coming from survival, coming from your culture around you. So just a checking on the thoughts in your mind will bring a lot of freedom and understanding and noticing that you've been, oh, this person offended me. Oh, this, you start just noticing that, no, just a learned reaction because you don't give a fuck. And just be happy here and now. Why? Why not? Because joy and happiness doesn't need to have a reason in the logical terms. That's one of the most difficult things for the mind. No. In order to be happy, I need to accomplish something. I need to, otherwise, no. Well, sorry, that is going to take you, as Buddhists call it, samsara for a long time. It's going to get you like reliving the same experience. Don't you ever notice that the hate you feel today when someone threatens you or it's exactly the same hate you've been feeling with different people in different moments through your life? Exactly the same sensation, exactly the same experience. Maybe with new layers, but still it's the same flavor, it's the same taste. That should tell a lot about how much is not the thing, is more your reaction to it, meaning your mind, your conditioning. And I'm not suggesting to recondition your mind. Please do so if you feel like it. But ultimately, we're talking about recognizing the freedom already. That would be the best way, right? To be happy already and then do whatever you want. Instead of thinking, oh, I still need to meditate a lot to be happy. Or to become anything or a better version of myself. Right now, I'm so screwed through all these things that happened to me, or I can get rid of my mind. This is not actually even true. When you deeply observe it, you're already free of it. But most of us are just grabbing into it. That's the problem. So why it takes meditation time, if it's something that it doesn't need time to be accomplished? Well, you will see, because your mind is completely engaged. And there's very deep emotional patterns of fear and a lot of stuff you don't want to say that are running through. So not going to be easy. And your mind is going to fight you like hell. When you say, okay, I'm going to sit in here and just going to ignore my mind. You can absolutely do it because you're not your mind by nature. So it can obviously be done. And that's exactly the way it happens to someone who actually release your attachment to your mind. It just happens like that. It's just like a thing. And so the reason why for most of us this will take a parent process is because each time you sit to meditate, you are just loosening up a little bit your grab. That's why I'm still recommending you, even when I've been just saying you, the most basic nature of you're already happy. Most people will encounter, okay, fine. But in my process of deepening into that basic state, I just get stuck. I just could just sit in there and feel, okay, then learn all this exercise of meditation of many people way cleverer than you. Figure out, just learn them. There are a lot of them. There are many ways of doing this. But ultimately, you go into non-doing and you notice at one of the clear points, I remember you making that question a while ago. And I was saying, oh, should I say the other way around? But the way you will know you are completely succeeding in it, beyond noticing that your suffering is not affecting you so much, is the activity in your mind. And it's not that you're trying to stop your mind. Please, that's another activity on top of it. It's a release. It's a non-doing. It's easy. The moment you do it, and I know most of you know this for a fact, the moment you notice it, nah, this cannot be that easy. and understanding comes out. I'm just gonna be in the now. It's like, wow, it's just working. I'm in the now. Yeah, as we know, after a while, that was like, but it just went back, this conditioning. So just sit every day. That's my strong suggestion. Spend time and teach yourself to let go of your mind, and don't be afraid. You're not gonna die. You're not gonna become dumb or stupid or anything like that. On the contrary, your mind rests and it feels fresh. And the moment you think like a panther, just nails it. Creativity comes, everything works. Any problem just melts just by your attention, by your focusing, using your mind. I'm not saying don't use your mind, obviously, but what I'm saying, just make sure that you can let go of it. So see some time during the day, find a good trick that works for you to release. Could be today if you want it so, but why to stop having so much fun suffering so quickly? Thank you for coming today, for your presence, for your attention. Have a peaceful week.